Do you know this record? It came out in 2002, more than 20 years ago. I played some guitar on this record. I guess the record made a big impact. I still get questions about it all these years later. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I was on a recording session here in New York City. And when the engineer on the session heard that I had played on the Come Away With Me record, he said, "Oh man, could I ask you about something that you played on that record? I've always been curious about." And yeah, I said, "Sure, of course." And when he asked me about it, I had to admit that I had not played the part that he was asking me about. I think some people think that I am the guitar player on this record, which is really not true. Lots of guitar players are featured. Kevin Bright, Bill Frisell, Adam Rogers. I play my parts, but I thought it would be enlightening to make a video and set the record straight, talk a little bit about the things that I did play and also about the things that I didn't play so that you can get to appreciate just all the different flavors of guitar that are going on this record. I went back and listened through it top to bottom, with headphones on, really listening, which is something I hadn't done in a long time. And I heard stuff that I forgot was there. So it was fun for me. I hope this video will be fun for you too. So let's get into it. The album opens with Don't Know Why. That song was written by Jesse Harris. And Jesse played, there's two guitar parts going. There's an acoustic guitar part, which is probably what you think of when you think of the song. But if you really listen with headphones on, there's acoustic guitar is off to one side, and then on the other side is an electric guitar part playing basically the same thing. It's all Jesse. I assume he recorded the acoustic first and then doubled it on electric. Can't say for sure, but that's my guess. Next is 7 Years. There's also two guitar parts here, but now instead of being the same part doubled, there's two very distinct parts. One is played on steel string acoustic guitar, and the other is played on a resonator guitar or National guitar. That's all Kevin Bright, who's an incredible Canadian guitarist. He's on lots of records. He plays guitar and mandolin and banjo and sings and does all kinds of stuff. I'll include a link down below so you can check out Kevin Bright if you haven't heard him. I wasn't at the session when he played this, which I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. There were multiple sessions. But I did play with Kevin when NORAH made her second record, her Feels Like Home record. We were recording together, and then we went on the road and toured together in her band for a little while. And I got to know him and appreciate him. He's a fantastic musician. The third song is Cold, Cold Heart by Hank Williams. I actually play guitar on this very guitar, actually. And I don't remember exactly what I played, but I'm kind of trying to play little chords so you can hear what the harmony is. There's acoustic bass, and NORAH is playing a very kind of sparse piano, as she often did back then. So I was trying to give it some rhythm. There's no drums on this track. I was inspired by... I heard Herb Ellis with the Oscar Peterson Trio sometimes do this fake kind of bongo thing. It doesn't really work on this guitar. It'd be great if I had a real hollow body. So I was trying to kind of drive this sort of bongo sound, but still get some chords. And then when NORAH plays the piano solo, I overdubbed this just real sustainy slide thing. I'm not much of a slide player, but it's something that I used to like to do on records was just, play something kind of ghosting in the background, like what in music we call this a pad. It's not meant to draw your attention, but just to have some harmony and some texture and to support the things that are in the foreground. I tried to make this video not super duper long. I tried to give you some details, but I didn't want to overdo it. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, of course, you can comment down below. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this channel, I hope you will like, subscribe, do all the stuff. You're on YouTube. You know how to support creators. Thank you so much. The fourth song is Feeling the Same Way. Again, that's the work of Kevin Bright playing two very different guitar parts, one acoustic, one electric. There's a real art to that, to stacking parts and creating distinctive parts for each sort of character in the song, and Kevin is really great at that. Track number 5, Come Away With Me, title song. I did play on that, again, on this guitar. I'm doing some very light chordal work throughout the track, and then I play a solo. And I wanted to mention something that not everybody knows is that before the release of Come Away With Me, NORAH recorded and released a 5-song EP for Blue Note that was called First Sessions. Those were 5 songs that were recorded with like almost no budget. There was no producer. It was kind of a test. Blue Note wanted to see what NORAH could do, because before that she hadn't recorded. You know, she was very young and new to New York and new to the whole thing. So they recorded 5 songs for this thing that came out as First Sessions. Don't Know Why is on there, and actually the final album version of Don't Know Why is basically that original sort of demo recording with a couple things layered on top to sweeten it. Come Away With Me was not like that. We did a fresh recording of Come Away With Me, but I had heard, before we recorded, I had heard the sort of demo-y version, or the First Sessions version, that had Adam Rogers on guitar. And I know that inspired the solo that I played. So if you get a chance to hear that version, if you can find the First Sessions CD, or if you have the like deluxe box set that came out on the 20th anniversary of Come Away With Me in 2022, you can hear Adam Rogers, his solo, and then you can hear how I was inspired by it. I don't think I took anything note for note, but just the spirit of it and the kind of guitar texture. The 6th song is Shoot the Moon. This is another Jesse Harris song, and he plays a really beautiful acoustic guitar part. It opens the song and plays throughout. Jesse is really a master of playing things that sound kind of easy but aren't, which I learned when we started touring for this record. You know, the record, on most of the songs, there's 4 or 5 people playing. And when we were playing shows around New York City at that time, that's how we would play. I would play electric guitar. Jesse would play acoustic. NORAH would play either a real piano or an electric piano if we were someplace that didn't have a piano. Lee Alexander played upright bass, and usually Dan Reeser played drums, who's on this record as well. And but when we started touring out, playing outside of New York, we usually went out as a 3-piece, just NORAH playing electric piano or piano, and Lee playing upright bass, and me playing guitar. I bought an acoustic guitar. I didn't have one before. Before we went on tour, I bought an acoustic so that I could play some of Jesse's parts on songs that needed them. And man, it was a lot harder than I expected. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we move through the record. But anyway, I played a guitar solo on this one. There's a solo in the middle, and then there's kind of a little extra victory lap at the end. As the song fades out, I play some more. Next up is a song called Turn Me On, and that features Adam Rogers. His playing on this is kind of simple in a way on this. I mean, compared to other records where Adam really stretches out, but it's soulful and gritty and just feels really good. After that is a song called Lone Star. Tony Shear plays acoustic guitar on it, and the slide solo is Tony. I'm also credited as playing acoustic guitar on it, which I don't totally remember, but sounds kind of right. The thing that's a bit of a head scratcher to me is that I did not own an acoustic guitar at that time, so either Tony let me borrow his, and maybe I doubled his part or something, or I might have borrowed one from somebody else. I've asked a few people who were around, who were part of the sessions, and nobody seems to remember. So I guess it will remain a mystery, but I played some acoustic guitar on Lone Star. I've Got to See You Again was really interesting for me to listen to because the part that I play on the record is pretty different from what I remember playing when we played that song live. I think I tended to play it down low and kind of floaty, and then I would take a solo where I would move up the neck and hit a distortion or overdrive pedal. I think I played a Boss DS1 on the first tour. This was before anybody had boutique overdrives, really, so I can't be too embarrassed about the DS1, but it wouldn't be, if I had it to do over again, that probably wouldn't be the box that I would choose. But anyway, that's what I did on tour. On the record, the solo is played on violin by Jenny Scheinman. But I'm playing something like that. Something like that. And I can't remember if that was something NORAH asked me to play or something that the producer Arif Martin asked me to play. It's not something I've heard myself play on other records, so it's not like something that's out of my usual bag of tricks. But it really made a nice space for everything else that was going on rhythmically and sonically. So I'm glad that that's what I played. I'm sure I had some help. Song number 10 is Painter Song. Lee Alexander, our bass player, wrote that. Again, I'm credited with acoustic guitar on that one, and when I listen to it, it's definitely me playing acoustic guitar, but I couldn't tell you what guitar it was. I've asked people, nobody seems to recall, so that's one that's just lost to the dust of time. But it's a neat song. It's a song that kind of seems simple and folksy, but actually has lots of passing chords. It reminds me in a way of James Taylor. Not that it's like a James Taylor song or any particular James Taylor song that I can think of, but it has that quality where it has kind of an aw shucks, simple quality to it, but the guitar part there was a lot that I had to work on to keep it feeling unfussy, even though it is pretty fussy to get all those passing chords and stuff. After Painter Song is a song called One Flight Down. It's another Jesse Harris song. He plays acoustic guitar on it, and I'm playing the electric guitar. I know Jesse told me that when he wrote it, it was inspired by early Roberta Flack, like the first couple of Roberta Flack records, and I can kind of hear that. I think this song is just a classic. I wish more people would record it. I just think it's a really beautiful song. It's another one that kind of seems simple, but when you actually get into the nitty-gritty of what the chords are, and especially how the melody, the vocal melody, sits over the chords, it's really sophisticated. So you have to play chords that support some of the tensions in the melody. I didn't have to do that so much. My part is a little bit more floaty, but if you listen to the piano voicings and the acoustic guitar, there's more going on than you might think. The next song is Nightingale. I play an electric guitar solo on that. When you listen to it, especially if you listen in headphones, you'll hear there's this beautiful delay or echo effect on the guitar. That's not something that I was doing with any kind of pedals. That's something that engineer, producer Jay Newland added. After I played my guitar solo, he put the effect on it. And it sounds so great, I would end up trying to do something like that when we toured live with a stomp box. But really, that was an effect created in the studio. The acoustic guitar part is played by Jesse Harris. And again, it's one of those things that seems kind of simple. When we went out on tour and I was having to cover some of Jesse's specific guitar parts, since he wasn't with us, we were just a one guitar operation at that point. I actually sat down with Jesse and asked him to show me some of these things. He taught me how to play Don't Know Why, taught me how to play Nightingale. And when I started playing those parts with NORAH live, she would say, well, it's not quite right. And I said, well, I think it's right. I mean, Jesse showed it to me. All the notes are there. I think I'm doing it right. And she said, well, it's right, but it doesn't feel right. If you actually listen to the way that Jesse played the acoustic guitar on the recording, there's much more dynamic shape to it. It's not just this, kind of machine of steady eighth notes. It can sound that way, but if you really pay attention, it really ebbs and flows around NORAH's voice and sort of kind of Nightingale, and then it kind of comes up, and every time she sings a word or two, Jesse tucks his part in and then comes back up. It's really a master class in accompaniment. I learned a lot from having to learn Jesse's parts and then having to relearn them because I had missed some of the details the first time around. Okay, we're 12 songs deep and there's still 2 more to go. Song 13 is The Long Day Is Over. That's not a track that I'm on, but gosh, it's got Jesse Harris and Kevin Bright and Bill Frisell, and just one of the most gorgeous tremolo guitar tones that I've heard on any record ever. Such a gorgeous track. This was a lesson for me when I went out and would play this song on tour with NORAH because it's in D flat. And Bill Frisell, I assume, played it in C with capo at the first fret, or maybe he tuned his guitar up a half step, but more likely played with a capo. And at that point, playing with a capo was fairly new territory for me. I didn't own an acoustic guitar before I was working with NORAH. I didn't know much about finger picking. I didn't own a capo. I was really much more of a jazz guy. But I thought, man, if Bill Frisell can use a capo, then I can use a capo too, And, the way that this record was made, really, it wasn't all done at one time. There was this initial session that I mentioned. It was called First Sessions when it came out as a 5-song EP. And then on the strength of that, Blue Note gave NORAH some money to make a record. And that had Kevin Bright and Bill Frisell on it. And I was not part of the band at this time, even though I knew NORAH. I had left New York. I was living in California. I was actually working on the editorial staff at Guitar Player magazine and playing some gigs, but not a lot. This was like in 2000. And so I wasn't part of the record, But then those sessions, some of it she was happy with, some of it she wasn't. It's not for me to say exactly why, but she called me up one day. I was in California and said, "Look, I'm making this record for Blue Note. I've recorded some things. I want to record some more things. I'd love to have you on the record. Could you come to New York?" And I basically quit my job at Guitar Player, went to New York with nothing more, no more promise than a week of work in the studio. But I really loved NORAH and wanted to be part of the record, and so I did. Took a road trip with an old friend, and we drove across the country, and I showed up and got to record it. This was in the summer of 2001. But pieces of this record happened before me. The song Turn Me On with Adam Rogers, that was part of a really early session. And then the stuff with Kevin Bright and Bill Frisell was sort of this middle session, that some of which got used for the record. And then I'm on a bunch of stuff that happened in like the third phase, really, of sessions for this record. So anyway, I'm glad I got to be part of it. The last song on the record is The Nearness of You, which is just NORAH singing and playing piano, and it's really gorgeous just as it is. There's nothing you would want to add to that. So I tried to make this video not super duper long. I tried to give you some details, but I didn't want to overdo it. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, of course, you can comment down below. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this channel, I hope you will like, subscribe, do all the stuff. You're on YouTube. You know how to support creators. Thank you so much.